Rule 18. Don't envy what others have. We all set our own objectives. We all have individual ambitions. We all work out how much work we are prepared to put into this business of becoming wealthy. We all set our own limits and know what we are prepared to do or not do. So what is the point of envying what anyone else has? Not unless you know what their agenda was and is. Not unless you know how much work they were prepared to put in. Not unless you know what they were prepared to sacrifice. Of course, you can cast an envious glance at the easy three: lottery, inherited, married, or divorced. Into. We all do. But money earned is entirely the business of the person earning it. They did the work. They had the idea or entrepreneurial spirit. They got up earlier than us. They were driven or fired up by what they wanted to achieve. Envying them is pointless. Learning from them is invaluable. And learning from them is the greatest gift they can give us. Ideally, you need a money mentor. Someone you look up to who has made a lot of money and in the right way, legally, enjoyably and nicely, who will give you the odd tip, tuck you under their wing, set you on the right path. And refuse to lend you any money, of course. Not that you'd ask. If I come across someone extremely rich, I immediately try to work out how they did it, and if that route would suit me. What bits of information could I glean to help me get to that position, bearing in mind I only want to do it right, legally, and enjoyably. I think 90% of getting these rules right is to approach getting wealthy as sympathetic magic. Do as they do, and you'll end up as them. I have my money mentor, and I hang on to his every word when it comes to money, as he's living on the interest on his money, and that's the place I'm heading for. Use other people as a source of inspiration. Besides, envy is not a characteristic of a rules player. That's you now, by the way. Envying them is pointless. Learning from them is invaluable. Rule 19. It's harder to manage yourself than it is to manage your money. So how well do you know yourself? Pretty well. Not at all. Vaguely. We think we know ourselves until we come to give up smoking, lose weight, get fit, get rich. And then we realize we are lazier, have less willpower, less determination, make less effort, get too easily dissuaded, fall by the wayside too readily. If I wanted to tuck you under my wing and make you wealthy, the first thing I would need to know is, do you have what it takes to be wealthy? Are you determined enough? Will you work hard enough? Will you stick at it? Do you have backbone? Stamina? Guts? Relentless focus? You see, if you don't, the chances are you won't succeed. I'm not trying to put you off. I am trying to make you see that making money is a skill that can be taught, as long as the person is ready and willing to learn and apply themselves diligently. If you decided you wanted to win Wimbledon, you would have needed to start playing tennis when you were about 5 and have been winning junior championships by the time you were 14. It's the same with money. You can't expect an overweight, middle-aged person to suddenly be in the final. When I was a young struggling student, I once sold a valuable book so I could eat. I made a direct choice between owning something that was going to increase in value, and thus potentially make me wealthy, and having a meal for one. You see what I mean? I, in essence, chose, at that time anyway, to be poor rather than wealthy. I saw the same book recently in a bookshop, and believe me, I made a bad call that day. And what I have noticed is that the wealthy, when they are starting out anyway, have enormous drive and are prepared to make enormous sacrifices. They manage themselves and forego instant rewards for bigger payback in the longer term. Self-control and delayed gratification are useful arts to learn. The first thing I would need to know is, do you have what it takes to be wealthy? Part 2. Getting wealthy. We've entered the dark, uncharted waters of Part 2. This is where we get serious. This is where we start the real practical stuff. This is where you have to start taking a good hard look at your situation, doing some planning and taking some action. Getting wealthy means being very honest with yourself and being willing to invest your time and efforts into the quest for greater prosperity. Many of the rules are behavioral, and changing your behavior is never easy. Some rules will seem stunningly simple, but for every rule you have to ask yourself, I may already know this, but do I do it? The willingness to put in the time and do something, make things happen, is vital. Rule 20. You've got to know where you are before you start. Before we can go forward, we have to know where we are now. Or rather, you have to. When Robinson Crusoe swam ashore from his shipwrecked boat, the first thing he did was check out what stores and guns and ammunition he had. When he knew that, he could assess the situation and move forward. So you are going to swim ashore and begin your new life. The first thing you have to do is to take stock. Find out what you've already got, what can be used, what can be discarded or discounted, what you owe, what you are owed, what basically is your net worth. We're going to do a full financial audit on you and your life. If you don't know where you are before you start, you can't really work efficiently toward becoming wealthy. It's a wise man who lays out his tools before he begins the job. We have to know where we are now. Here's your checklist. It may need adapting to suit your individual circumstances. Start with the big figures to get a picture of where you are right now overall. Item plus. House mortgage credit, store cards bank. Savings. Pension. Loans, overdraft. Assets, cars, etc. Personal items, jewelry and so on investments. Debts. Total net worth. Now that you have an overall figure, you need to look at your typical inflow and outflow of cash on a monthly or annual basis. You can choose which you assess, but all figures have to be made either monthly or annual. Put your salary here. Item. Fixed regular expenditure. E.g. insurance, bills, food, memberships. Variable regular expenditure, e.g. shopping, vacations. Totals. Balance. This may not be ideal for your circumstances, but I'm sure you get the idea. Don't be tempted to skip this exercise. Even if your financial situation is none too rosy, it's good to face up to reality so that you can take positive action to address the situation. Rule 21. You've got to have a plan. Why are a fool and his money so easily parted? Because the fool doesn't have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you'll be tempted to fritter your cash away, spend it instead of investing, or forget the new business idea or career move. If you have a plan, you know exactly what does and what doesn't fit into it. The last rule helped you work out where you are now, and you already know where you're going, your objective. The plan gives you the important bit, how you are going to get there. Back to the Robinson Crusoe analogy. Once he had been shipwrecked and taken stock, he made a plan. I'll need a shelter to keep warm, some food and something to do. And he set about building a thatched shelter on the beach, which of course got blown over in the first gale, and he had to retreat inland to a cave. You see, even the best plans have to be open to adjustment. First things first. If you have a job you love and are happy, then you'll probably want to stick with it. If it doesn't make you enough money, you need a plan to generate income another way. If your job is making you miserable and what's worse, keeping you in a poverty trap, then you must prioritize getting out of it in your plan. Your plan should involve taking financial control of your life. If you have debts, it will definitely include tackling these as a priority, ditto spending excesses. The plan might involve a career change, investigating a business idea, investing money, or generating some capital so that you can enter the buy-to-let market. It may well include selling things. A lot of money is generated through selling things, whether it's a product, a service, or your time and skill. That's why I like writing books. Even while I sleep, there is a bookshop somewhere that is selling books for me. In fact, one of the fundamental truths about getting rich is that wealth, real wealth, comes from doing deals, not from earning wages, salaries, or fees. As General Patton said, a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. Whatever the plan includes, just make sure you have one, and that you stick to it. Don't worry, the rest of this book will give you lots of ideas as to what your plan could contain. Just remember, never sit back and wait for somebody to give you money. Ever. The plan gives you the important bit, how you are going to get there.